On November 7th, 2022, a lottery ticket was purchased in Altadena, California by a very lucky person. That ticket won the Powerball draw for a prize worth over $2 billion. After taxes, the jackpot winner is taking home around $750 million. So, the real winner is Uncle Sam, but this is still more money than most of us can imagine having. Last year, Americans spent over $100 billion on lottery tickets. It's the most popular form of gambling. And this popularity makes sense because the lottery is the ultimate rescue fantasy. A handful of numbers and a mere dollar gives you a chance to hit big. Money is a very powerful tool that controls many aspects of our lives. It's highly desired, and so people heavily associate money with their happiness. This is in spite of everyone having at least heard the saying, "Money can't buy happiness." But is it true? Well, the answer is no, but it's a lot more complicated than that. And in this video, we'll dive into the link between money and happiness and explore why society's outlook on money is flawed. First, let's take a look at the primary use of money, which is to fulfill a person's basic needs. Unfortunately, an estimated 698 million people are considered to be living in extreme poverty. That is, living on less than $1.90 a day, which means that almost 9% of all people on Earth are severely deprived of basic human needs, including food, safe drinking water, shelter and sanitation facilities, access to health, and access to education. And that data is from 2021, before the global economic crisis, before we saw record high cost of living from inflation and supply chain issues, before the energy crisis, and before we saw the impact of the war in Ukraine. More recent studies suggest that over 860 million people are living on less than $1.90 a day. And that's just extreme poverty. Still, nearly half the world's population is struggling to meet its basic human needs. In America, well over half the population is living paycheck to paycheck. Needless to say, the world has financial difficulties. We know that. And that lack of money for so many does make life difficult. And that does restrict happiness. It can adversely impact your sleep, self-esteem, and energy levels. It can leave you feeling angry, ashamed, or fearful. It can fuel tension and arguments with those closest to you, exacerbate pain and mood swings, and even increase your risk of depression and anxiety. People resort to unhealthy coping mechanisms such as drinking, abusing drugs, or gambling to try to escape these circumstances. The lack of money results in misery. However, not being miserable doesn't mean you are happy. And once a person's basic needs are met, additional money results in a minimal gain to their happiness, much less than you'd expect. Let's take a look at this graph. Research shows this money happiness threshold. As your income reaches around $75,000 to $100,000, we see diminishing returns to happiness. Meaning once you hit a certain point in that range, making more money barely makes you happier. There's many variables that affect this point, which is why we see a range. One big factor is your location. In a state like California, where the cost of living are notoriously high, you would require a higher income to achieve the same level of happiness you would have in a highly affordable state like Indiana, where we see some of the lowest cost of living. So we know that money can make us happier, but being made happier doesn't always mean you are happy. The same way that not being miserable doesn't mean you're happy. On top of that, the happiness you do get from money is front-loaded and temporary. Think about this. If someone were to give you $100, you would gain happiness, and after spending that $100, you'd feel great. But after some time, likely just a day or two, your happiness level is more than likely to return to where it was before. Now you may be thinking, that's only $100. What if someone would give you a massive amount of money from, say, the lottery, like our friend in Altadena? Well, the same principle applies, just at a larger scale. Researchers found that while lottery winners do see an initial spike in happiness, they're only slightly happier than the average person after just a year. The biggest reason for this is our standards changing. The human mind adjusts quickly to new circumstances. This is known as hedonic adaptation, which is the notion that after a positive or negative event, people return to a stable, baseline level of happiness. According to this theory, as a person makes or gets more money, expectations and desires rise in tandem, which results in no permanent gain to happiness. These peaks are examples of those positive events, and these troughs are negative ones. You can see as time passes, you return to your baseline happiness level. Every person has their own set point for happiness, and what's unsettling is this is mostly genetically determined. This set point for happiness is found to be responsible for about 50% of differences in happiness from person to person. There's actually a really good example of hedonic adaptation that comes from a show you may not expect. SpongeBob. You may remember the Squidville episode where Squidward gets so tired of SpongeBob and Patrick that he decides to move to a place so perfect that he'll never have to worry about not being happy again. Squidward is living his dream, and although it starts out great for him, he realizes this idealistic lifestyle won't keep him happy. In other words, you will never be happy. Alright, I'm kidding. You can overcome this by understanding that pleasure is in the process and not the final destination. Enjoying the journey and having gratitude for the little things in life is what's essential. So to go back to our big question, yes, money can make you happier, but it won't keep you happy. And this isn't to say that money isn't important, it's just that we as a society have massively overvalued its importance. And what's overlooked is the importance of how we choose to use our money. There's ways for us to maximize our happiness from money. So, what are they? Well, these three in particular stand out. One is to spend on experiences. Research shows that people tend to get more happiness out of buying experiences rather than material things. Even though it's fun to invest in possessions, the novelty wears off quickly. Experiences, on the other hand, offer a more constant source of joy. The memories we make from traveling bolsters our sense of self, make us more thankful, and enhance our connection with those we have those experiences with. The second is to invest in yourself. The state of your mental and physical health shape how you experience the world, so spending money to enhance your overall well-being is one of the best investments you can make. This can include getting a membership to work out at a gym, taking dance classes, eating good, healthy food, and feeding your mind by taking classes to learn music, art, or maybe some new computer program. Books are also a fantastic way to improve yourself, and they won't break the bank. The third and most important way is to invest in others. Whether it's family, friends, or a complete stranger, people get more happiness out of money they use to benefit others than money they use to benefit themselves. The research shows this, and it's so strong that it's been found people actually feel better about giving a smaller amount than receiving a larger amount. To be happy is something we all want, and money definitely contributes to that when it helps us make our basic needs. But beyond that, money itself becomes nearly irrelevant to our pursuit of happiness. And the time you spend doing the things you love with the people you love most is what's most important in this world. And that is something money can't buy.